Most men think intimacy starts in the bedroom. It doesn't. It starts way before that, in the way she feels around you when nothing sexual is happening. And this is exactly why so many husbands keep getting confused. Because in their mind, they're asking for something physical, but in her mind, she's reacting to something emotional. So if you've ever felt like your wife pulls back, avoids certain kinds of closeness, changes the subject, gives a tired excuse, or just doesn't seem open to going deeper with you, this is probably not about what you think it is. Because most women do not respond to pressure. They respond to safety. They respond to emotional comfort. They respond to how they feel in your presence. And the truth a lot of men never hear is this. A wife is far more likely to open up intimately when she feels understood, not cornered. That's the difference. And if you miss that difference, you can accidentally make her feel more distant every single time you try. Because the moment a woman feels like intimacy is being requested without emotional connection, her body may be there, but her mind quietly closes. And once that happens, it's not desire anymore. It becomes resistance. And resistance doesn't disappear because you ask nicer. It disappears when she starts feeling emotionally safe enough to want closeness on her own. That's the part most men never learn. And honestly, that's the part that changes everything. Because if your goal is to make your wife more open, more affectionate, more willing, more relaxed, and more naturally responsive to intimacy, then the answer is not begging, guilt, frustration, or acting like she owes you something because you're married. That energy kills attraction faster than most men realize. What actually works is much more subtle and much more powerful. It starts with understanding what she is really reacting to underneath the surface. Because when a wife says no, avoids, hesitates, or feels closed off, most of the time she is not rejecting you as a man. She is reacting to the emotional experience she associates with that moment. And those are two very different things. A lot of women need to feel emotionally relaxed before they can feel physically open. Not because they're difficult, not because they're playing games, but because female desire often works from the inside out, not from the outside in. And this is where so many husbands get it completely wrong. They try to create desire by jumping straight into physical energy, when what she actually needs first is emotional permission. That might look like feeling appreciated, feeling seen, feeling unrushed, feeling like she matters outside of what you want from her. Because a woman can instantly tell when affection is real and when affection is just a shortcut to something else. And trust me, that difference is loud to her, even when you think you're hiding it. That's why one of the fastest ways to make your wife more open to deeper intimacy is to stop making every soft moment feel like it has an agenda. This matters more than most men realize. If every hug turns into pressure, every cuddle turns into expectation, every kiss feels like it must lead somewhere, she starts learning that closeness with you is not relaxing. It's loaded, and once closeness feels loaded, she starts protecting herself from it. Not because she doesn't love you, but because she doesn't want to feel trapped inside someone else's expectation. That emotional shift is huge. And if you understand that one thing, your entire marriage dynamic can change. Because women open up faster when they feel free, not when they feel managed. So if you really want your wife to become more willing, more affectionate, more naturally intimate, then the first thing you need to give her is this: a space where she can feel close to you without immediately feeling like she has to perform. That changes her nervous system around you, that changes her emotional response to your touch, that changes how safe your presence feels. And yes, that absolutely affects desire, because desire is not just about attraction. Desire is about emotional atmosphere. And the emotional atmosphere you create around your wife matters more than you think. If your presence feels heavy, frustrated, needy, resentful, or constantly disappointed, she feels that. Even if you don't say a word, women read energy faster than men realize. And when a wife feels like she's constantly disappointing her husband sexually, something painful starts happening underneath the surface. She stops feeling like your partner and starts feeling like a problem. That is one of the worst emotional positions a woman can be in. Because once she feels like a problem, intimacy stops feeling beautiful. It starts feeling like pressure she's failing to meet. And pressure is the enemy of desire. Always. This is why emotionally intelligent men create connection before they ask for closeness. Not fake connection, not manipulative connection, real connection. The kind that makes her soften around you naturally. The kind that makes her body language change before anything physical even begins. The kind where she starts leaning in, talking more openly, touching you more casually, smiling differently, holding eye contact longer, and feeling more feminine around you without even realizing it. That's where intimacy begins. Not in a request, in a feeling. And if you're not creating that feeling, then even a perfectly worded request can still fall flat. Because this is where most men get surprised. They think the issue is what they asked. But often the real issue is how she felt all day, all week, maybe even all month. If she's emotionally drained, mentally overloaded, silently resentful, physically tired, or feeling unseen in the relationship, then your request doesn't land in a neutral place. It lands on top of all of that. And suddenly what feels simple to you feels emotionally exhausting to her. That doesn't mean your needs don't matter. They do. But if you want to be heard by a woman, you have to understand the emotional environment your words are landing in. That's not weakness. That's intelligence. And men who understand this tend to get far better results in marriage than men who only focus on how to ask. Because the truth is, how you ask matters, but who she becomes around you matters even more. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because if you want your wife to become more open to trying new forms of intimacy, deeper affection, or more vulnerability with you, she has to trust that she won't be judged, pushed, or emotionally punished for how she responds. This is huge. A lot of women don't fear intimacy itself. They fear the emotional aftermath. They fear awkwardness. They fear pressure. They fear disappointing you. They fear being made to feel guilty if they're not fully comfortable. And once a woman has even a few experiences where she felt pressured, misunderstood, or emotionally cornered, her body remembers. That memory matters, even if she never says it out loud. And if you miss this part, you'll misunderstand her completely. Because she may not be rejecting intimacy. She may be protecting her comfort. That is a very different thing. So if your real goal is to make your wife feel more open, more willing, and more connected to you intimately, then your energy has to say this: you are safe with me, not just physically, emotionally. That means she can be honest with you without drama. She can say yes without fear. She can say no without punishment. She can express discomfort without feeling like she's ruining the relationship. And ironically, when a woman feels that safe, she often becomes much more open than men expect. Because freedom creates trust, and trust creates softness. And softness creates intimacy. That's the sequence. Not force, not pressure, not convincing in the way a lot of men imagine. Because if you're trying to convince your wife the way you'd convince someone to agree to a plan, you're already approaching it wrong. This is not a negotiation. This is emotional intimacy. And emotional intimacy cannot be pulled out of a woman. It has to be invited. That one sentence alone can save a marriage. Because invited intimacy feels beautiful. Forced intimacy feels cold. And women feel that difference instantly. So what actually helps? Start here. Talk outside the moment. That's one of the smartest things a husband can do. Do not wait until you're frustrated, rejected, or already hoping for intimacy to suddenly bring up something sensitive. That almost always creates pressure. Instead, bring it up in a calm, emotionally safe, non-sexual moment. Maybe during a drive, maybe while relaxing together, maybe after a genuinely good day between you. And the way you bring it up matters a lot. Not with accusation, not with why don't you ever, not with other wives do, and definitely not with wounded ego. That shuts women down instantly. Instead, approach her with warmth and emotional maturity. Say something like, I want us to feel closer. I want to understand what makes you feel comfortable and connected. I care about what intimacy feels like for you too. That kind of language changes everything. Because now she doesn't feel like she's being asked to perform. She feels like she's being invited into honesty. And honesty is where real intimacy begins. Not performance, not pretending, not pressure, honesty. And this is where a lot of men discover something surprising. Sometimes what a wife needs is not more persuasion. Sometimes what she needs is more emotional trust. More romance without expectation. More affection that doesn't always lead somewhere. More patience, more listening, more feeling chosen, not just desired. That line matters. Because being desired is nice. But feeling chosen is deeper. A woman wants to know that you value her as a whole person, not just as the gateway to your needs. And when she truly feels that from you, her walls often come down in ways you can't fake. This is why the strongest husbands in intimacy are not always the most aggressive, bold, or demanding ones. Often they're the men who know how to create emotional safety without killing masculine attraction. That balance is rare but powerful. Because you do not need to become weak to become emotionally intelligent. And you do not need to become pushy to lead intimacy well. Real masculine confidence in marriage looks like this. You can express desire without desperation. You can communicate honestly without guilt-tripping. You can lead closeness without controlling it. And that energy is deeply attractive to women. Because calm confidence feels safe. Neediness does not. Resentment does not. Emotional pressure definitely does not. So if your wife has been distant, hesitant, or less open than you want, don't just ask yourself what you've been requesting from her. Ask yourself what being close to you has been feeling like for her. That question changes everything. Because if being close to you feels emotionally warm, accepting, playful, respectful, and unrushed, intimacy starts becoming something she associates with comfort instead of tension. And when that shift happens, she often becomes more responsive naturally. Not because she was convinced, but because she finally feels safe enough to lean in. That is a massive difference. And honestly, it's the difference between short-term compliance and real long-term desire. One fades, the other grows. And if you're married, that should matter to you. Because any husband can chase moments. But a smart husband builds an atmosphere. An atmosphere is what changes a woman over time. Not one conversation, not one romantic night, not one perfect line. The emotional atmosphere of your marriage. That is the hidden truth most men never hear. If she feels emotionally safe, appreciated, feminine, unrushed, and deeply respected around you, you'll rarely have to force closeness. She'll start wanting it more on her own, maybe not overnight, but consistently. And that's real. That's sustainable. That's how mature intimacy actually works. So no, the answer is not trying to talk her into something she's uncomfortable with. The answer is becoming the kind of husband she feels more open with naturally. That takes patience. That takes self-awareness. That takes emotional control. But that's exactly why it works, because women don't just respond to words. They respond to what your words feel like, and what your presence feels like, and what being close to you emotionally costs them. If closeness with you feels peaceful, she'll move toward it. If it feels heavy, she'll avoid it. It really is that simple. And this is the part I want you to remember most. A woman who feels safe enough to be honest with you is already giving you the doorway to deeper intimacy. Don't ruin that doorway by turning it into pressure. Protect it, respect it, lead it well. Because the strongest intimacy in marriage doesn't come from getting more from your wife. It comes from becoming someone she can relax into more deeply. And when that happens, everything between you starts changing. The way she touches you, the way she looks at you, the way she responds to affection, the way she opens up emotionally, the way she wants closeness instead of avoiding it. That's when marriage starts feeling magnetic again. Not because you force the moment, but because you rebuild the emotional conditions that make intimacy possible. And if you really want your wife to open up more, start there. Not with pressure, not with frustration, not with entitlement, with emotional safety, patience, honesty, and connection. Because when a woman feels deeply safe, she often becomes deeply open, and most men never realize just how powerful that really is. If this hit harder than you expected, then you already know this was never just about intimacy. It was about emotional trust. And if you've seen this dynamic in your own marriage, I want to know, what do you think most wives need more of before they can feel truly open with their husband? Say it honestly in the comments, because sometimes one honest answer helps more people than you think. And if you want more real feminine insight into what women feel, want, and rarely say out loud, stay close. Because the things men usually ignore are often the things that change everything.